Your mindset is holding you back from achieving the true prosperity that you could. I once heard a motivational speaker say, you're 6 inches away from the best year of your life, and that 6 inches exists between your ears. Today, we'll talk about how having an abundance mentality versus a scarcity mindset can affect your outcome. I'm Drew Adams, and I run a family office where we work with incredibly successful wealth creators to educate, empower, and protect what they've worked so hard for. In this video today, we're going to talk about how the consumer mentality is likely standing in the way of you achieving your fullest potential. So what do we even mean by this when we talk about scarcity versus abundance? Or another term is known as consumer versus producer. One of the first books that really talks a lot about this and kind of is thematically based on this is a book called Atlas Shrugged. It's a great, very long, sometimes boring read, but it talks about this idea of scarcity and abundance. The idea is so much of America and the world lives in a scarcity mentality. It's kind of how we were taught. And I think there are people that truly believe if you said to them, I made $1 million today, they'd probably be a little irritated, maybe even angry, because they believe that there is now less wealth for them to now go and capture. They think you've taken more than your fair share. The theory of abundance believes that there is an abundance of wealth. There is an infinite amount of wealth to be created, and it can be created from nothing at any time with ingenuity and creativity and great ideas and execution. And that by creating that wealth, it doesn't take from anyone. Not only does it not take from anyone, it actually contributes to society. Wealth creates wealth, or another way to say it is success begets success. This mindset shows up in a myriad of ways all day, every day. And I'll give you just one example to consider. So often you think and you look at some opportunity, some investment, and this is a great test to see where do you really stand on this scarcity versus abundance spectrum, right? But you think about this investment and you find yourself going, I like it, I want to do it, but I just can't take the risk. And that is all founded on that if you're wrong, that you're somehow a bad person, you should live in shame, you're going to run out of money, and all these things that most of them probably will never happen. In fact, Mark Twain talked about this. There's a quote he said, I've had many toils and troubles in my life, most of which never happened. Think about how often you portray and play out scenario after scenario, usually the worst case possibility, and how often that thing actually happens. But we find ourselves living there day after day after day. I think the vast majority of humans are really more motivated by fear. They're moving away from something they don't want to have happen. In fact, if you think about it, how often do people talk in quote nots? They say, I don't want this to happen. I don't want that to happen. This can't happen. I would have to come back from the grave to fix this if this happened. But they're talking about everything in a bit of a negative style. On the inverse, very few people are actually motivated by pleasure. Not to say that we don't all enjoy pleasure. It's just, what are you motivated by? I had a client some years ago who came to me and said, when I sold my business back in 2005, I had enough money and I could buy bonds at such an interest rate that it produced enough income for me. But now, this is later in 2010 era time frame when he told me this, said, interest rates have gone down and these bonds are maturing and I can't find new bonds to buy that give me enough interest to pay for what I need to spend every year. And his whole idea was, I wanted to maintain my principal. I want to be safe with my money. And I want to invest it in such a way it throws off enough income where my principal stays flat or maybe grows just a little bit. But he was using that mentality to drive his entire allocation and investment thesis. So most of his money was in bonds. He was taking almost no risk on his portfolio, which is fine if it's nothing more than a lifestyle portfolio, but he really did want to grow his wealth. What we ended up talking about is, well, why don't we come up with how much you need to spend every year? Why don't we put that amount of money in safe money, and instead of maintaining the principal balance flat and even, let's actually amortize it from where it starts to zero over your expected lifetime. That now allows us to take all the extra money and invest it in private investments, invest it into equities and higher risk assets that should produce a higher return, and we don't have to have current liquidity. It took a while, but he had an epiphany. He has made those changes, and his balance sheet has grown immensely because of it. The good news is you don't necessarily have to stay in that mentality. If you find yourself or believe that you're in the scarcity mentality, I would be a great example. I think I am pre-wired this way. I think from birth. And even today, I think about myself and go, I am still motivated by fear. But I can't tell you the number of times I have spent projecting what would happen because this happened, now it must mean this, which means that, which means this fiery crash is coming, and how often that didn't happen. Then I go back and think about the amount of mental energy I put into that rather than actually stopping, appreciating, yes, there's an issue. Yes, there's something I need to deal with. What can I do about it? And what is beyond my control? I can only control certain things. Focus my energy there. So the first step is begin inside. Take a practical and honest real assessment of yourself. How do you actually make decisions? Are you perhaps really a scarcity mindset? Are you always letting fear stand in the way? It holds you back from doing things, so you end up being paralyzed by that fear and have an inability to move forward on things. And then I would rally around some people that you feel like do have that more abundant mindset. Friends, family, advisors, colleagues. And in my case, I've even hired executive coaches. I've been working with various executive and performance coaches for over 15 years. It's been a slower process than I think I probably thought early on, and it's been an iterative evolution of my experience, but I can tell you it has paid massive dividends in terms of the way I approach the world. Before, I would worry about problems and let them just eat me alive. I couldn't sleep. I was even taking certain medication, and I've totally wiped all that out. And I am focused on what I can control and not driving myself crazy about those things that I can't. With all that said, there does need to be a balance. Having an abundant mindset or a producer mindset that is focused on results and achievement and creation and success, that's all great, but there needs to be a balance. It's not a license to go be reckless. It's not a license to run into a burning fire and take unnecessary risks, but it is a great framework from which to begin. I'm sure a lot of you out there are sitting there saying to yourselves, but I'm just wired this way and it's not my fault and I can't help it. And I've heard that a million times. Heck, I've even said it myself. I'm going to challenge you to challenge yourself. To ask yourself, is that really true? Is there really nothing you do? This is just the way you were designed. There's no ability to change. There's no ability to transcend. There's no ability to grow. I don't think that's true for most people. I think it's about intentionality and deciding a different path for your future. Now, I know this was a lot. If this video resonated with you, I would encourage you to share it with a friend or colleague or advisor that you can have a thought-provoking conversation with and who can maybe hold you accountable to actually execute on this process. Also, if you want us to go deeper in this topic or explore another topic, please comment below. And check out the link in the description to check out other resources that we may have that can assist you. I'm Drew Adams from Atticus, and remember, wealth creates.